Welcome to Vote Who with me, your host, Abdul-Rehman Malik. With just days to go before the thrilling conclusion of the British general election, we're tackling the big questions the mainstream media find too hot to handle. Vote Who has been live every day this week. Tonight's program is the penultimate show in this special series, which concludes tomorrow night. But wherever you're from, we invite you to put your election questions to our specialist panel. With us today, DAUD ABDULLAH, the director of the Middle East Monitor. Tre Azam, who since starring in BBC One's The Apprentice, has gone on to become a public speaker and now a filmmaker. And finally, ASHOK Viswanathan, one of the founders of Operation Black Vote. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if you want to ask our panel anything, call us now on +44 208 601 4555, or send us a text on +44 780 000 8066. Or, if you prefer to send us an email, then you can do that too. The address is votewho@presstv.co.uk. You should see the numbers now at the top of your screen. We've witnessed one of the most exciting political campaigns in a generation, and now we're in the home stretch. Each party has set out their wares, and the British public has had a chance to see the leaders battle it out on TV for the first time. But many people up and down the country are still asking, why bother voting? Ashok, what would you say to the naysayers?
Well, what I would say, Abdul, is that for too long, our communities have failed to play a full and positive role in the democratic process. And if we want our concerns, the issues that we have day to day addressed by politicians, then we have to make sure we're playing a full and positive role. And there are more than 100 seats where the Muslim vote, for example, can decide who wins and who loses. But this community is invisible if it isn't registered to vote, and if it isn't going to go out on polling day and make itself heard.
That's interesting. Tre, I mean, you've just finished a major documentary project where you've been going out into specifically Muslim communities and finding out why Muslim voters are so apathetic. What have you found on the streets of Great Britain?
What I expected to find was a lot of people telling me that they don't vote because they think it's haram, because that seems to be the most legitimate excuse. But when we got down to it, what we found was it was pretty much laziness. A lot of it was apathy, a lot of it was what is the point? But most of it was just laziness. People felt, well, you know, this doesn't do anything for me, politics doesn't do anything for me. But what I think we tried to get back to them is that involvement and inclusion very important in developing the Muslim community in this country. And there are people, I mean, people have died all over the world for the right to vote, and I think we take things for granted. And I think that's education is where it's at, and we need to educate people.
Well, Daud, you're a veteran community activist. You've dealt with the issue of voting for probably nearly a generation. What's your feeling right now? What's going on on the streets out there in terms of this election?
I think on this occasion there's a real understanding on the part of Muslims that they can make a difference in several areas. This is because more than half of British Muslims live in only in 50 constituencies, and in some of these constituencies they constitute 20% of the population. If they are organized and they vote tactically, they can actually make a difference.
And do you see that organization taking place on the ground?
I see this because of the frustration, the disillusionment, and the anger in some respects with the performance of the politicians in the last term of office.
We'll pick up this point in just a second, Daud. Our team here have all week been talking to members of the public about what issues are on their minds, and we're going to go to the first question from the streets of London.
2 million people demonstrate about not going to Iraq, but they still went, so why am I voting?
It's an argument we hear a lot, isn't it, from the street. Over 1 million people in the UK marched against the Iraq war, but the government of the day still didn't do anything. Daud, what's your response to frustrated voters like that?
I think this is your chance. This is your chance to register your anger and change those who took the decision. If you continue to stand on the side and be negative, and you do not engage in the process, then you cannot change. You can only change if you participate.
Tre, do you hear the Iraq War argument often in your outreach?
I do, and I think the danger for us is that it's more about foresight. The thing is, yes, it didn't work straight away, but is disengaging completely going to work? We can't think that because we tried one thing and failed, we have to stop. We must have foresight to think we must continue doing it, get even more people, and then maybe the government will listen.
Ashok, some concerns often come down to ethnic minority communities in the UK that they're too focused on foreign policy questions and they're not engaged enough in domestic policy concerns. What's your take on this issue?
Well, I mean, I don't think that's true. I mean, I think at this general election, if you ask people who are African, Asian or Caribbean what their issues are, it's the economy, it's education, it's employment, it's the same issues. The difference is the lens within which they view these issues, and they have a very unique position. There's the disproportionality in education. Bangladeshi, Pakistani boys 3 times more likely to be excluded from school, African Caribbean men 8 times more likely to be stopped and searched. So criminal justice, the economy, education, the same issues that matter to wider society, but the position, the experience is different. And in terms of foreign affairs, I mean, it's true that the marches didn't make a great difference in stopping the war, but what we have seen is a debate now about how we vote for the war in Parliament, and what we've also seen is an unprecedented mobilisation of young people that are politicised in this generation.
On that point, Ashok, I'm going to go to DAUD. DAUD, have you seen very quickly alliances taking place that perhaps didn't take place before as people of different backgrounds come together around the same issues?
Certainly. I mean, on this occasion, there is this long-standing alliance now between Stop the War, the Committee Against Nuclear Disarmament, and the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign, for example, on issues of foreign policy. This is an alliance that has been nurtured over the years and has evolved to deliver tangible support for specific candidates in areas like North London, where you have Jeremy Corbyn, an anti-war campaigner who has the full backing of the Muslim community.
We're going to go to a caller next. We have Maria from Cambridge. Welcome to Vote Who. Maria, what's your question? I'm
concerned with the situation with Muslims wearing their burqas. You know, it was never an issue before, and suddenly it's been highlighted across Europe. So it seemed to me that there is some sort of a conspiracy, if you will, regarding you know, how people dress. You know, would the same thing apply if a lot of Europeans decided to start wearing hats, for example? You know, I really can't see the reason why all of a sudden there's this emphasis placed on how Muslim people choose to dress. I think it's a matter of personal choice.
Thank you, Maria.